The video requests you sent me are chef's kiss, and I would be happy to interpret this. This is the annexed in Alsace. Once again, I really try, but please correct me on my French pronunciation. This was created in 1911 by Albert Bettannier, a French painter in the era of the French Third Republic. This piece was created when Alsace-Lorraine was annexed by the German Reich, after the Franco-Prussian War. A visual political poem. Albert is known for his patriotic works of losing his home region of Alsace. This takes place during the Treaty of Frankfurt in 1871. This forced residents to choose between being German citizens or leaving and remaining French. An impossible choice for many. For the people living there, their border didn't move, but their nation did. This was not just domestic despair, it was personal displacement on a political level. This man, the father, he represents the Alsatian population who woke up and were citizens of another country, basically. He sits slumped, his hand covering his face, in exhaustion, shame, grief crushed by national humiliation and helplessness. He's not injured or dying like in so many war paintings. Instead, this shows the psychological defeat of civilians. Across his lap lies the tattered remains of a French flag. On a broken pole, almost suggesting it was torn down violently, but in civilian life, tools replace weapons. This may be all he had. Notice the jagged edges on both sides. It's a makeshift spear. The cloth draped downwards would represent the fall of the French authority and the loss of his nationality. The nation he identifies with has been stripped away. It's important to note he also cannot look at his children. The implication is painful, but he feels like he has failed to protect them, their homeland, and their identity. Although he's not a soldier, civilians had very little to resist the annexation. Behind him, his wife, mother of his children presumably, is in traditional Alsatian wear. The black bow is a traditional headdress of Alsace, and now an iconic symbol. This is a Schlupfkap or a slip cap. I am so sorry if I butchered that, I practiced. And was worn in defiance after the war, sometimes along with a cockade, used to show political allegiance or military affiliation. If anyone would like, I could go into the history of the headdress, because I learned a lot myself from this video. Her posture is upright, but her face has a heavy grief or anger to it. She represents the cultural identity of Alsace, proud but now uncertain of its future. The father represents defeat, while the mother represents cultural endurance. She carries the burden of preserving the children's mental wellness. At her side stand two small children, barefoot and vulnerable. Their gaze is directed towards their father, and they're absorbing the emotion of this moment. They represent the next generation that will grow up under a different nation than their parents. They're watching history unfold without fully understanding the weight of it. The children are standing in between their parents. Symbolically, they are caught between French identity and German rule. In the background, a baby sits at the table, too young to understand anything that's happening. I think he's placed further back in the painting because he's going to be the last generation that doesn't remember anything about the turmoil this is causing. And it begs the question, will this child grow up as a French or a German citizen? The light pours through the window and softly illuminates the room, but it doesn't feel hopeful. Instead, it highlights the quiet stillness of a family that has just lost their nation, and the stress of the father trying to decide what is the right or safe option for his family. The frame on the wall, empty but perhaps has a little shred of fabric left. Historians believe this may be the remnants of a portrait or a map that was taken down. If this interpretation is correct, it would symbolize the removal of French identity from their home. The clock on the wall behind them. In the 19th century, clocks would represent routine. Work, school, and a family life were structured around them. But in this scene, the emotional collapse of the father contradicts this. The structure of daily life remains, but the meaning has shifted. The vase high up on the wall. Vases in art are usually there to depict the fragility and beauty of something that can be easily broken. How ordinary life can shatter over politics and war. The garments over the chair causes a sense of interruption, daily life that has stopped suddenly. This reinforces the idea that history has invaded a normal household. These are not wealthy noblemen or high-class society, these are normal working-class people. Albert decided to keep his French nationality. He moved to Paris and he enrolled in an arts college. He acquired some notoriety and was awarded the Légion d'honneur in 1908 for his work as a painter. This is about a moment after the war when families are left to deal with the consequences. Sometimes the deepest wounds are not on the battlefield. They're in the homes of people that history forgot.